Johnson, Show, the big fella. Have the coach and the hurricane. What's up, fellas? How y'all doing today? What's up, JC?
What up? What up,
What up?
DJ?
What up,
What's up,
DJ? What's
Hurricane?
up,
What's going
Hurricane? What's
on?
going on, man? It's Martin Luther King holiday, and a lot to think about, a lot to talk about there, and country's in disarray. Other than that, everything's great.
Well, that's Jeff. You really made me feel real good to say that the country is great, everything is ready to go, and all that good stuff. Hey, man, how do people celebrate Martin Luther King Day? You know what I'm saying? What do you do, particularly when the pandemic is going on? What can you do to celebrate it, JC? I mean, and when we talk about celebrating Martin Luther King Day, I think the thing that I got to be very conscientious on, and when we talk about celebrating Dr. King Day, is that are we really celebrating that day? Are we really doing anything? Because going out there and having a march or cleaning up a neighborhood for one day, is that truly celebrating Dr. Martin Luther King Day, JC?
I think you already know
You
that.
already know that.
You know
How we live,
stuff
and the stuff we can do in the community.
if you only do it one day, out of 365,
65,
everything that
everything
King
that
paid
King paid
for black and brown people, people out there that look like me, we go out and we just celebrate one day, give you something back to
the community. Shame on them. Shame on them.
Yeah, and I think it's been so commercialized that we don't really take it for what it really is. You know what I'm saying? Miss Boyd, you're 100% right. What do you, Dr. King, what do you think? What I think Dr. King would think today? I think if Dr. King was living today, I think he would be really just disturbed. I think he'd be disappointed on the work he put in. And let me say this: like I told you, Jeff, I watched the 3 nights in Miami. You know, I think you said. Did you say you watched that, Jeff?
Can't wait to see it. Yep. Not yet, but I have the ability to see it. Just haven't gotten to it yet. I hear it's great.
I'm telling you guys, it's a hell of a movie, right? But when I was thinking about the sacrifice that was made, Dr. King and those boys, they lost their life, man. And then you know what was interesting when I was watching Malcolm X in that movie, and when I was watching him, the way he was moving, I was sitting up there thinking, wow, this guy died and sacrificed his life. So imagine when Dr. King and any of those activists who fought for us, they knew they were sacrificing a lot of the life, man. They knew they had a chance to die. Excuse me.
It was only a few years after President Kennedy had been killed, so they knew what they were up against.
Exactly.
All the time, Dr. King's family was threatened. His house was threatened. He was threatened. He lived with constant threats. I will say overall, I don't know if I have the right number, but he's certainly one of the 10 greatest Americans of all time. He did fundamentally change things. How would he feel today? I think I said this to you the other day. Things actually did change while Dr. King was alive, and probably for some period of time after that. But it feels like over the last, I don't know, I'm kind of making up the time frame, but it feels like over like the last 20 years, things stalled out, and now maybe they're even going backwards.
JC?
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
you look at
where we are. Undoubtedly, we made some strides. But
if he was still alive today, I think he would definitely acknowledge that we got so far to go. We got a long
way to go.
And I think if Dr. King saw just how everybody move and how things are going now, I think he'd be so disappointed, because it seems as if the farther we try to make it, the harder it is for us to make it. You know, I mean, and there's no solidarity. There's nobody hanging in there with one another. There's nobody, organizations are not coming together. And you can look at any other group of people in this country. When they do something, they come together with it. You know what I'm saying? They fight for it. They one unified.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They're unified. And
It's hard. See, I'm not a historian, so it's hard to tell whether or not he was a person of his time, and it was really the times that changed, or whether or not he changed the times. I don't know enough to say which one it is. I presume it's a little bit of both. And what I mean by that is, if Dr. King had lived in a different day and age, maybe he would not have brought about the change that he did bring about. Maybe it was a combination of his leadership and the times. But what we have now, DJ, I agree with you. What we have now is the times are not good for change, and we don't have the leadership.
yeah, AJC, make sure your computer is muted for me, because I'm okay. I'm muted on my side. Okay, and go ahead, JC. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying, it's fascinating to really read and kind of study his last days alive, to hear him talk. You could, if you really listen to him, I think that there was something inside of him that knew that, it's coming down the stretch. My life is in jeopardy. You know what I mean? It's kind of fascinating to read some of his last speeches publicly. It really is.
No doubt about it. I mean, the mountaintop, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was so devastating. I mean, that was so impactful and so emotional, because when he was talking about it, he was talking about his death. I might not be here. I might not get there with you.
Yeah.
And I mean,
that
was
doesn't matter anymore.
right. That was all about him acknowledging where he was. He knew. Like Shameen, you're 100% right, Shameen.
Oh, yeah.
He knew, Jeff. He knew
Oh, yeah.
he was going to die. I mean, that's kind of scary. You know
And
how?
by the way, not in theory. He got death threats.
Yeah.
His family got death threats.
But-
His family had to go in hiding. This wasn't just some theoretical, I'm a martyr thing. Every day he knew. And guess what? Guess who wasn't helping him? Guess who was supposed to be helping him and wasn't?
Who was
the
that?
FBI.
Exactly.
J. Edgar Hoover was not helping Martin Luther King. He was building a file on Martin Luther King.
Exactly. And what was interesting, I mean, they recorded him, and they wanted to talk about indiscretion. They just wanted to do everything just to deter this man down. And he was, I mean, but it takes...
DJ,
go ahead.
DJ, when the Martin Luther King holiday was passed, Ronald Reagan was president, so it was in the mid-'80s.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse Helms, then the segregationist senator, I believe from, forget which Carolina he was from.
I thought he was from North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken.
North Carolina, right.
Mm-hmm.
He showed up in the debate and to vote no with a stack of files, presumably FBI files, about 4 inches thick, which he claimed had all kinds of proof that Dr. King was a communist and other things. So darn tootin' the FBI was spying on him and building a file on him.
So, Jeff, that's what I want you and JC to explain to me. When they call a person a communist, I want both of y'all to take time. Jeff, start with you and then come to you, JC. Explain to our listening audience and our viewing audience. Break it down in the simplest form. What do they mean when they call somebody a communist?
Right. So what he meant then, and today is a different time, what he basically meant was the guy's a traitor. So remember, Jesse Helms and some of these other guys, you and I were little kids. First of all, we weren't even born in the 50s, and we were little kids in the 60s. But in the 50s, you had McCarthyism, remember, where
Yes.
they were rooting out communists. So even by the 80s, for older people like Helms and old people, being a communist basically meant you were anti-America.
Right. JC, your
Now, what
thought.
the evidence was, I don't know. That's a different issue. But that's
Right.
what Jesse Helms meant was, this guy, we shouldn't have a holiday for Martin Luther King. He's not a true American.
Exactly.
Now,
So-
the good news is a majority of Congress disagreed with him, and they did declare the holiday, and Reagan signed it in the law.
But how did they come up with that theory, JC, you think, of calling him a communist? Because he was against racial segregation? Because he was against segregation? He was against racists?
Because you're just supposed to be quiet and take it. You're supposed to shut up and drill. You're supposed to not say nothing.
Right.
You're supposed to bow your head down. You're supposed to not speak up. That's why. That's why. You know what I mean? You know, shut up and dribble. You know, that's it. That's the modern day. That's the modern day. That's the modern day one right there. Be quiet and dribble.
Right. Just run the ball. Shut your mouth.
Right.
Yeah, they
don't say that.
J. Edgar Hoover and that whole bunch, they saw the word they probably used was agitator.
Exactly. And J. Edgar Hoover was one of the biggest racists going, man. And I mean, and think about this. He's in charge of our FBI and all this CIA. He's over charge of all.
Back to the 30s.
Think about that, Jeff. Think about that, though.
Oh, he had dirt. You know he had dirt on all those presidents. That's
exactly.
why they kept him.
I mean, this guy, hey, man, that dude,
he had files in the
what was he in there for, 45 years or something like ridiculous number?
Something like that. Yep.
It was like
Oh, yeah,
45. Who stay in a position for 45, 50 years? I mean, how asinine ridiculous that is. You know, and then, I mean, when it goes down like that, and you know what, but what saddens me, if Dr. King was to show up today, and God would give him a chance to come back here, I wonder what he would say. Probably he'd say, oh my God, I done lost my life for this? You know what I'm saying?
No, I
for
don't
this
think
environment?
so. I think the world got better because of him. It just stopped getting better. It got better because of him, but it stopped getting better.
There are things that has gotten better. No question about it. Has gotten better. Okay, we know that. But I'm talking about the big picture. When you look at Jeff, see, and we got to talk about relative, right? Let's relatively speak on this one right here, because JC, when we look at what we say black folks is where we were in the 50s, 40s, whatever, 60s. Yeah, have things gotten better? Yeah, things have gotten better, but the situation is still just as dire. We were segregated. They try to do segregation against us then. We're gonna get jobs. They get the free trade of jobs as a prison. That's still going strong. You know, so things that has happened in Dr. Martin Luther King Day is still happening, but it's happening more sophisticated. I mean, kind of like J. Edgar Hoover when they were doing their intel, Jeff. When they was doing all this intelligent work, going behind the door, doing all kind of things. They did it a certain way. Now intel is just so easy and so complex that it doesn't take anything to get intel. So when people say, are we better? Yeah, there are some things have gotten better. No question about it. But when we look at the big picture of gain, Jeff, I mean, there's a good argument that black folks can say, well, you know, when I look at my life and where we are today, yeah, can we go to the same schools? Yeah, but are we still getting treated pretty much housing, jobs, loans, opportunities? For opportunity, it's pretty much the same in terms of results. Not same as action, but the results are the same because the actions are now hidden a little differently than what it was, because it was blatant in. I tell you what, when I was watching that movie, I just got to tell you and JC this, and that's what I'm talking about. Jim Brown, he went back. He's from Georgia, so he goes back home and visit his folks, and the I guess his relatives told him, Mr. Johnny, whatever the man name, go to his house. I never forget this. I mean, Jeff, I was stunned when he came up to the house. I mean, Jim Brown, all world running back. Oh, Jimmy boy, it's good seeing you. He said, yeah, Mr. whatever, Mr. James, I'm here, your mom. They told me you asked about me. You wanted to see me. I come back. All right, having a good conversation. And then he was sitting out like on a sun porch. I want you to watch this in that movie on one night in Miami. It was unbelievable when this happened. So the man shaking his hand, hugging him. So the guy's daughter, I believe it was his daughter, I don't know his wife or daughter, like his daughter, came back outside and said, you got to move a couch or whatever. Had to move something in the house. Jim Brown sitting up there, he looks at the man, stands up, and he said, you know what? I'll come and help you. Mr. Moore, whatever the man's name was, I'll come in the house and I will help you move the equipment. And I never forget. I mean, this was stunning, and it was just so profound. When he said, he looked at Jim Brown, he said, Mr. Smith, I'll come in the house and help you move it. I'll move it for you. I'm younger. I can move it. The man looked at me and said, Jimmy boy, Jimmy, now you know we don't like no in the house. You know I can't let no N-word come in this house. You know I can't do that. Son, I just can't let you in here. You know, we don't let ends in our house. That was so powerful to me. I'm like, damn. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and then what it did, guys, and I know I'm talking, but I'm going to let you guys jump in there in a second. JC, it brought me back to reality. It makes me that some, now I don't want all white guys
think. Long ago. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
Exactly. So I don't want all white folks to assume that, hey, what's up, Kevin? Assume that I'm thinking all white folks. Jeff is one of my closest friends, right? So I know he ain't like that. But let me just tell you guys this. When he said that to Jim Brown, an all-world athlete, everybody loved Jim Brown. And everybody wanted to be a part of him. I mean, just breaking all kind of records. Come back home, and this man said, Jimmy, boy, Jimmy, you know I can't have no ends in my house. You know we can't do that. And the point I'm making, guys, there are some, and I'm not talking about all white folks, because we know that ain't true. There are some that pat me on the back. What's up, Whitfield Montgomery? Pat me on the back, shake my hand, say all these kind of things, but then treat me as if I don't even exist. If I'm around their friends, or if I'm not around their friends, I don't know him. You know what I'm saying, JC? So, Jeff, when me and JC talk about how things are to us, you can't identify with it. We understand that because you're not going to experience that, and we don't expect you to.
If I said I did.
No, we don't expect you to, Jeff. So when we say Jeff, go ahead, Jeff. I'm JC. I'm sorry.
And it crosses across economical backgrounds. You know what I mean? I don't care how much, as a black man, or black woman, I don't care how much money you make, how much the establishment, you think the establishment loves you, ask Oprah Winfrey. Ask many of these, they always going to come back around to remind you of who you are.
So when you guys were
one example of that.
When you guys were little guys, did your parents or grandparents ever tell you about the Green Book?
Yes, I saw the Green Book. Yes.
The Negro Motorist Green Book, right?
Uh-huh.
So that was back in the 30s through the 60s when, and just what JC said, didn't matter who you were. You could be a concert pianist, you could be Jim Brown, but if you were traveling in the United States, there were lots of places where automatically you could not, a hotel you could not sleep in, a restaurant you could not eat out of, a drinking fountain you couldn't drink from. And so somebody actually wrote a guidebook called the Green Book for African Americans to know which places were friendly and which were not. And that wasn't that long ago.
We're going to take a break. We're going to come back, and they got a movie called The Green Book, y'all. Y'all got to check it out. It's really real. This is real, man. Happy Dr. King Day, but I know he's a sad man looking down and seeing the despair and how black folks is living and what we're going through. He's got to be saying, oh, my God. Lord, I died for this? Wow. The big fella, Demetrius Johnson, the coach and the Hurricane. Holler at your boys. We're going to take some calls at 313-778-7600. And guess what, folks? The guest I got coming on in the 8 o'clock hour, oh, my goodness. Wait till I tell you that when we come back. Right back.
So you've decided to go to college. That's cool. So pop quiz.
Hey, DJ, you got two callers.
Okay, cool. Who are they?
Brian and Eric.
Okay, good. Brian first and Eric second?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Beach on a towel or on your couch with your kid. Your campus is wherever you want it to be. You don't go to college. College goes to you. That's independence. That's Independence University. You schedule classes around your schedule, and all your supplies, including a brand new laptop and tablet, are included with tuition. At Independence U, you'll learn from professional instructors with real work experience. You'll get personal support in school and employment assistance when you graduate.
feedback. Welcome back to the Demetrius Johnson Show. The big fella hanging out with the coach and the Hurricane. Holla at your boys, 313-778-7600. I guess we got a couple callers. Let's go to the phone line real quick. Let me bring in my man, Brian. What up, Brian?
Hey, man, good show once again. And I want to try to answer one of your questions. I think today's existence is called modern slavery with a job. Mm-hmm. And they pacify people with that job. So for the people that's content with it, it's modern slavery. Anytime people think they own their houses, you don't pay your taxes, they can take your house. Mm-hmm. So you don't really own anything. Another thing, I think what's really happening is we're repeating everything in biblical. If you really think about it, I'm in Novi, and I watch the malls, I watch the streets. It's casual, just man on man, women on women. Everything's normal now. When we used to get shocked back in the day, everything's changed. And I think if Dr. King was living, first thing he would do is gather up these old pastors, and I know you're going to love it. And if Fidel called in, hey, I'm sorry, but he's right. He would be so pissed the power that they have. Big fella, I thought about this. The power that they have, if he would probably get with the powerfulest black pastor that could run this, these Negro pastor churches, and ask him to ask the white man this. And I like Jeff. So, Jeff, I want you to try to answer this for the Caucasians if you can. The next conversations that I have with Caucasians that's getting pissed off, I ask them, show me, because I got a real estate background, show me your land contract. Listen to this one. Land contract and warranty deed to this country, United States of America. They got away with some junk called forefathers. They ain't my fathers. I ain't got no forefathers that helped me out. So answer one of Jeff's questions, none of that stuff was written for us. The Constitution, none of that. So when black people get mad, or African Americans, or whatever we want to call ourselves, we get mad about something that we were never included in something. If you ever think about something, when you get a raise or promotion, guess what the black man run home and do?
What's that?
Honey, they gave me a raise. So I'm going to leave on this note. Jeff, if you can, please try to see if you can talk to your brothers and sisters and say, Brian Jones said, where's the land contract to ownership to the United States of America or the warranty deed or any other things that come with ownership to allow us to do this? And shame on people that call themselves leaders. And I'll wait for tomorrow to touch on that Jesse Jackson and Martin Luther King, because you guys would not want to go there. And I got facts on this one.
Okay.
So, hey, I'll wait for that one for tomorrow. But, brother, Jeff, if you can, I'm going to sit back and listen. Land contract warranty deed to the United States of America, and I don't care if it's a female or a male or whatever, but I want to see where they got it from. Shout out.
Hey, Brian, thank you, big fella.
Mountain.
Thank you, man.
Yes, sir.
My man. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, Europe was about conquest. They didn't buy it. They didn't have contracts. The reason that England took over half the world was because they had the strongest navy. And so Europeans, conquered the rest of the world because they had the best weapons and the strongest navy, not because they were right, not because they were good Christians, not because of anything, except that they could. And of course, we all know they took this country. I will say this, though, and I'm maybe a little off of what he was getting at. I think that the Bible is an almost perfect book, but the way people interpret it and carry it out is terrible. And I think the Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and our form of government is the best in the world. It's the way people carry it out that is very, very flawed. I've said this 100 times. I think the problem with racism is people. And so, they always say about our form of government, it's the worst form of government on the planet except every other form of government. And why is that? Because it's people. People are flawed. People are evil. People are mean. People are racist. And so what do I tell other people? He said, well, what do I tell my white friends? I tell my white friends, get to know somebody who's African-American. Be a friend. Go to church. Eat with them. Work with them. Do something. Let's start treating everybody as people, because we know that color is only skin deep, and underneath we are all made up. And I'm not even talking about religion now. I'm talking about biology. We are all created the same biologically and scientifically. And so what do I tell other white people? What the hell are you so hung up on the fact that somebody is black or Chinese or a woman or gay or whatever? What do you care? Underneath the skin, we are biologically all the same. So that's sort of my view of it.
All right. Okay, let's go back to the phone. Let's go to my man, Eric. Eric, what's up, man?
Good evening to you and your guests. I just want to say a couple things. I think part of the reason why Martin Luther King was labeled a communist has something to do with his position on the Vietnam War, and also his vision on things being equal and being equal for poor people as well as those that were as wealthy. And I will also say that we have a lot of revisionist history on Martin Luther King Day. Martin Luther King was a pariah in most parts of the country before his death. I mean, he was ostracized by most white folks and a whole lot of black folks. The NAACP wasn't supporting Martin Luther King when he was dying, when he was assassinated, because of his position on the Vietnam War and the Poor People's Campaign. You know, it was hard for him to get support. Only 25% of the black people in this country supported Martin Luther King when he was assassinated. They try to clean this up on Martin Luther King Day, that it was all kumbaya and everybody loved him, but that's BS.
Wow. Okay.
No, of course that's true.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. I mean, no, that's why the guy ended up getting killed, and why, as you said before, he knew he was going to get killed. Now, he did have supporters. Let's be straight. He was,
Sure.
I mean, in March on Washington, and he did have a lot of supporters. But hell yeah, he scared the crap out of people. And and in some manner, he scared the crap out of the FBI.
Well, the FBI, that's why the FBI did all the, in the background, Eric, to try to discredit him, try to come out and bring personal things at him to try to make his wife leave him, try to talk about the infidelities and all this kind of stuff. I mean, they came up with everything.
And they won't talk about the guy that organized the March on Washington. His name's escaping. There was a gay man that organized the march in Washington. I can't think of his name right now. Oh gosh, I'll think about that later.
Let me think about. Hold on. I got to hold on. The name who organized the march on Washington. His name is God dang it. He was a gay guy who organized the march on Washington.
Philip Randolph and Bayard Rustin.
There you go.
Bayard Rustin.
There you go. Bayard Rustin. There you go.
And that's the reason why J. Edgar Hoover tried to label Martin Luther King also homosexual, because of his association.
Hey, DJ, you got two callers.
Rustin was kind of in the background because he didn't want to taint or overshadow Martin and the movement as far as this march was concerned.
Right. No, you're 100% right. I mean, see, but that's what they see. One thing we've learned, Eric, and you can appreciate this. When they come after you, what's the first thing they do, Eric? Do you know the first thing they do?
They try to assassinate your character.
There you go. When they assassinate your character, everything else falls in place. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
That's what happened. They come after your character. When they beat your character up, anything else happen after that, then you're good. You know what I'm saying? That's what happens. They beat up his character, make him seem, and then what it does, it turns the people against him, turns his own black folks against him. Because now black folks are saying, we knew he was phony. Let me ask you a question, Eric, before we go, man. Name me another race of people that go against somebody who's trying to do something for their country.
There is not one.
I can't remember one.
Not Italians, not Mexicans.
I can't remember one. Hey, Eric, I can't remember one.
There isn't one. There isn't one. We are the only group of people that will talk profanely about our women in music. There's not, Mexicans don't do it. Jews don't do it. Nobody else does it but black folks, and we accept it.
Hey, Eric, man, this is a great call, man. I almost, oh man, you getting close to getting the call of the night, man. I ain't gonna give it to you yet. I might have another one for you, but that was good, E. Hey, E, thanks for calling me, big man. Have a good night.
Take care.
All right, my man. Hey, we got another call. I don't have the name. Come on, bring the call in for me.
Let's go with James.
All right, let's go, my man James. Let's go, James. What's up?
Hey, what's going on? Today must be tell the truth on the Black Church Day. That's all I've been hearing all day.
Let's go.
But well, if Dr. Martin Luther King was here today,
What would he say?
first thing he would understand why we are messed up right now today. The first thing he would say, you all been led and listened to a man that's still wearing a perm.
Who you talking
This
about?
is why. Al Sharpton still wearing that perm.
What wearing a perm got to do with him doing anything to help people? What they got to do with anything? I don't know. I don't know how you correlate those two. Because I wear a damn perm. Now, James, come on. I wear a perm. They got something to do with me trying to help somebody?
Listen,
All right, let me be quiet. Let me be quiet. Let me let you say what you got to say.
Black women don't even wear perms. Black women don't wear perms no more.
What the hell that got to do with the man? What his actions?
What action? This is why we behind. He can't lead us nowhere.
Well, I think
Go to
it.
the hair salon. No, come on, let me finish.
Go ahead. I'm gonna let you finish. Now I'm gonna talk.
Nobody but to the hair salon. We got the wrong leaders. We got the wrong leaders. If you don't stand up and fight like Malcolm said, when are you gonna ever stand up when half of your race is dead? You have to stand up. Now you listen. Watch this now. I said it a month ago. Joe Biden got a German Shepherd dog, and they finally put it on the news. See, this is the dog they put on us back in the 60s.
So
That's right. He got two German
So
Shepherd
you
dogs.
saying because he got a German Shepherd? Hold on, James. What?
Because
Hold on. I'm trying to let you talk, man, but you're going somewhere that's crazy. Because hold on, let me. Hold on, James. Okay, well, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna let you tell me this to the two things. Tell me why his hair got something to do with it, and the German Shepherd dogs. Go ahead, talk to me.
Because when perms was popular in finger waves, they wore them out. They don't look good no more. So that means he can't help you no more. Let me finish.
Hold on, man. Hey,
hold on. Let me
all right, I'll let you talk. I'm sorry.
Please.
Okay,
Let
go
me
ahead.
jump ahead, please,
Go ahead.
please.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
They say when we had 8 or 9 running for the presidency, right? Kamala Harris made Joe Biden look bad by calling him a racist, everything. Now they tell us choose from the two lesser evils. Okay, Donald Trump is going out. That means the other evil is coming in. So you're going to get evil results. Now I'm going to ask you this. If God was here, would God pick evil, or do we have two devils and no God at all? See, you got to be careful what you ask for.
Okay.
You still got an evil person going in the office.
Okay. Let me say this. All right. Let's try to kind of point each point you just made, and I'm gonna let JC and Jeff, you can come in after this. All right. First, you talked about the man's hair. You said because he's still wearing a perm, because perms are out, so he's outdated. That has nothing to do with somebody working and trying to get it done. Hell, I still wear some things that you wore back in the day. That would mean I'm outdated and ain't gonna work and try to get it done. So I understand what you're talking about when you're talking about Al Sharpton and his hair. That's truly ridiculous, okay? No, hold on. I let you talk, right? Now let me talk.
Okay.
I'm saying it's ridiculous that you're going to judge the man because his damn hair has nothing to do with it. And what was the other point? What was your other point you made? You made me forget. The hair, and what was the other one?
The dog.
Oh, the dog.
Man,
Okay.
the dog.
Now you are saying. Let me see. Let me show you what your mindset is, James. This is how I'm perceiving your mindset. I'm not in your mind, but let me tell you what I'm thinking you're saying. You're trying to tell me because back in the 60s, the 50s, and 60s, when they put water hoses on us, they put dogs on us, that because he's bringing a dog to the White House, that symbolizes the abuse and racism that happened to us in the 50s and 60s. That's what you're saying, and that's truly ridiculous. To assume because a man bring a dog to the damn White House, that means that's ridiculous. I mean, that is, and you're too educated to say some foolishness like that. You are too educated to be that foolish. I mean, that is straight up.
You don't bring a German Shepherd.
Hey, man, you can bring whatever kind of damn dog you bring. That ain't got nothing to do with, that ain't symbolizing. So you know what? See, that's what I'm talking about, man. It's really pissing me off if you make that kind of statement because you're symbolizing something that don't even make sense. You're trying to say because a man got a damn dog, that dog is equivalent to him talking about how they put dogs on us back in the day. Well, what about if it's a damn fire in the warehouse, in the White House, and they bring out water holes? So now they putting water holes on our asses too? Come on, it's ridiculous. Hold on, James. Don't go nowhere. JC, jump in and say what you got to say.
Oh, yeah, I you know, always a good call, but I ain't with you tonight, bro. I ain't with you tonight. That's ridiculous. That has nothing to do with his ability to run this country or to be fair because he got 2 German shepherds.
Right. Hey, Jeff, go ahead. Hit on that, Jeff.
I don't even know what to say other than it sounds. I don't know if you guys ever watched Seinfeld, but the guy who wrote Seinfeld, Larry David, had his own TV show on HBO, and it sounds like a Larry David episode where he'd have a German Shepherd named Adolf come in, and he's a racist dog or something. I mean, the guy ought to write comedy sketches.
Yeah, because, I mean, James, I like you, man. You always, you're very knowledgeable, and you come with some really good stuff, but you got, Mike Wilson, you're right, that is asinine to even assume that some man bringing a damn dog reflects racism. That's stupid, man.
No.
I ain't calling you stupid. I'm saying that's a stupid statement.
I know you're not. I know you're not.
Well, wait a minute. Hey, James, did he call you stupid?
That's a stupid statement.
DJ.
No. I still ain't did it. Nope. I'm not. Go ahead, JC. It ain't happening. It ain't going there, Jeff. Go ahead, JC.
I've been meaning to ask James something when he talks about the preachers. I want to know this, and this is just in Detroit. And this is the question I've been meaning to ask you. What is the average age of most of the prominent preachers you think? What is the average age of the most prominent preachers in Detroit? What do you think their average age is?
Say 55.
55?
In the 50s, yeah, I would say 55.
55 and up. So what do you think the average age of those prominent churches, if you had those top 5 or 10, or whatever prominent church, what do you think the average age is in the church?
You mean numbers? I would say 50 and younger.
50 and younger? Okay. All right.
All right. So, okay, James. I'm sorry. Go ahead, JC.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Coach.
Because I would venture to say, James, that most of the old folks is wrapped up in church, and the young folks ain't wrapped up in church.
Exactly.
The young folks ain't going to no church up there. See, what we got to do is start giving the young people a voice. There's too many old folks talking. That's one of the problems. It ain't just preaching. It's just too many damn old folks, period, talking. We need to sit down and be quiet.
I agree. If we start letting young folks have an opportunity to say something, then guess what, James? Maybe we have a chance. You know what I'm saying? Because we always want to tell them what the problem is, but we don't want to listen to them. We don't want to hear their voice.
Hell, maybe the church didn't even have a chance. Get some new ideas.
Right.
Hey, if they ain't got rich by now, they just ain't gonna get rich.
I know that's right. Hey, James. Hey, man, thanks for the call. Thanks for the call, man. Look forward to talking to you again tomorrow, man. But please, my man Mike Wilson said, you sounded like Bianchi. He's right. He is sounding like Bianchi on that one. He is. Let's go to our next caller, man. Who we got?
You got Sylvia.
All right. Sylvia, how you doing, Sylvia?
Hey, you guys. You know what? I hate I missed y'all one day. I caught you guys, and you guys were talking about religion. So what are your hours?
We're on from 7 to 9 Detroit time.
Okay. Well, I'd just like to say the continuation of the fakery, trickery, and the effery still being played on the black piece. The shackles and the chains are still on the brains. Both parties, as far as I'm concerned, work for the same criminal bodies, the real owners that stage, plots, and calls the shots, keeping the masses self-hating, dividing, supporting, and volunteering in their own slaughtering.
That's beautiful.
Thanks for taking my call, and the struggle continues, y'all.
Hey, Sylvia, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
That just touched my heart. I got to give her credit on that one, y'all. That touched my heart from Sylvia. But she says insane in the membrane. Hey, we got that song, James, insane in the membrane.
I said they got the lock chains on the brain.
Okay, so that's insane in the membrane. Hey, James, that was well said. I'm Sylvia. I mean that. That was nice. Thank you. Have a wonderful night.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye. Hey, man, that was nice. I mean, she got me feeling some kind of way there. Got me all emotionally teared up. Hey, James, do we have who made that song? Insane in the membrane. Insane in the brain. Huh? Who made that?
Cypress Hill.
Yeah, do we just have that part where it say insane in the membrane? Do we have that piece? If you can find it, that's cool. Because James is a bad man. So check this out, y'all. So that's what James said was truly it was just non-factual. See, I don't argue non-factual things. That's all his opinions. Everybody got one, right? So I'm telling you, that was ridiculous. It's almost like he said a subliminal message. If he brings a German Shepherd, hell, the man can't have no German Shepherd if that's the kind of dog he like. I mean, come on.
Funny though. It's pretty hilarious.
I mean,
that would be a good Saturday Night Live skit.
You know what I'm saying, Jeff? I mean, the problem I have, guys, is this. I have the problem with we march today, we celebrate today, and then we go back to business as usual. Separate. You know what? You know who's the most most separate people to black people, JC and Jeff? Jeff, do you know who that is?
Most what?
The most separate people are black people. Do you know who that is, Jeff and JC? You know how they want to be separatism. Who do you think that is, Jeff, JC, and Jeff? If you don't know, that's fine. That's fine if you don't know.
Yeah, tell me.
Black folks. We're the most.
I didn't understand the question. I didn't understand.
Well, JC, but that's a black question, Jeff. Jeff, that's a black question.
Yeah,
yeah, you wouldn't know that, Jeff.
I figured that's where you were going with.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we're the most separate. Separatism is the fact in our community. That's why you don't hear no other folks. I mean, they come together. And I always make this point.
Well, I don't know about coming together.
Hey, Jeff.
You mean separate from each other.
Jeff,
you mean
this is what I'm saying, Jeff. They will come together on the cause.
Separate from white people.
Most white folks come together on a cause. If it's a white cause.
I thought you meant separate. I'm sorry. I thought you meant like separate, like segregated. You meant separate from each other.
Right, exactly. You know,
okay, I get you.
I mean, even segregation. We create our own segregation within our own communities.
Well, so again, it kind of comes down to numbers. When you've got whatever white people are 55% of the country, obviously all, whatever that is, 200 million white people don't agree with each other and aren't, like, coming together. But when you have 200 million white people, you know, even if 10% of them come together, that's 20 million people. That's a lot of people to come together. So there's just a lot more white people. When you're 13% of the population, whatever that is, 40 million, you need, you know, just about everybody to come together to equal just a small percentage of the white people. It's just kind of a mathematical problem. And that's the problem when a small, you know, African Americans make up 13% of the country. And when that 13, you know, some of the
You got caller Al on the line.
out of the equation, then you take into account, you know, whatever you called it, separating, or whatever you called it, and now you got no political power.
I got you. Let's go back to the phone line. Let's bring in Al. What's up, Al? How you doing, man?
Oh, what's going on? Hey, Liz, this is a great conversation.
Let's go.
I mean, I know a lot of people take a lot of shots on church and stuff, but, you know, I'm always a firm believer, man. You first got to believe that he's a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. So if you really not seeking him, it probably really won't really resonate with you. You get what I'm saying?
I got you.
You know, I mean, you know.
It sounds like.
I hear people.
Go ahead, Al. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You hear people what?
I'm just saying, I always hear people like criticize the church. But they say, well, they're not doing this and this. But I'm like, if you're not seeking the word, if you're not seeking to go into the doors or know who he is, then how can you really come?
But let me tell you. But let me tell you why they. You want to go first, JC? I can tell you why they criticize the church. Go first, JC.
Well, I was just going to say this, too. We have to keep in mind, just because you go into church every Sunday, don't mean you ain't out here raising hell.
Right.
You tell me right about that.
Yeah, and I think that what we forget, we think that everybody goes to church every Sunday is doing the deal. They righteous, and they going to church every Sunday. And there's more people raising hell in the church than out of the church.
That's very true, but there goes again where your relationship. Remember when you think about church, and then when you even think about God and God Himself, it comes down to a personal relationship, and everybody feel like they
Fidel on the line.
hear God say, "Man, I'm gonna do it my way." So like I said, I'm not real critical because I know we all individuals and we all see stuff differently.
Well, let me say this before you go there.
Like,
Let me say this before we go out. The reason why the churches are criticized and we are critical on the church, you know why, Al? Because the church was the fundamental backbone of the black community. So when we was going through, when you was going through everything, let's even go back to slavery. What was the one thing slaves had to hold on to? Read any book, religion.
Well, the Bible, I mean, that's the only time
Right?
they allowed them to come together was church.
Okay, so guess what? If that's their fundamental foundation, how else do you want them to do things and support things? You know, and have and guess what? It's philosophical, right? I mean, it comes back to us. It becomes part of our whole being. It's not many black folks, well, when I was growing up, it wasn't many black folks didn't know about church. It's a lot of them don't know about it today, but but today, you know, the church, why do you think politicians, the first thing they do when they want to come in your community, where's the first place they go?
When they go to the church, they feel everybody congregates at that particular place.
Exactly, because fundamentally sound, that's what it used to be, but it ain't that way no more. Al?
Well, I mean, people got different wants, different desires, and different likes.
No. Hey, hold on. Time out. What does different likes have to do with being spiritual? You got a different spirit that you want to like?
Listen, everybody got a different way. Listen.
Go ahead, talk to me.
Listen, like I said, I'm a man of faith. I just think people feel like they can get to God a different way. I think people feel like they don't have to go to church. You got a lot of people who think different.
Well, you're right, because
I'm not here to cast.
Let me ask you a question.
Judgment on those people.
Let me ask you a question now. When you go, okay, does the Bible say you got to go to church in a building? Yes or no?
Well, it's not. The church is not a building.
Hey, okay, so the church is the people, right? Within the church is the people, right? Would you agree? Hey, I'm losing you, man. Hey, Al, I'm losing you, big man. Hey, look here. Hey, Al, you got a bad connection, big boss. You got to call back. Thanks, man. And, hey, we don't need to really bring my man Fidel on. We don't need to do that because we ain't going to have but a couple minutes, and we're going to guest coming up. So he's got to come on after the guest, Michael, because it won't make any sense because we know when we get Fidel on, we can't go 2 minutes with Fidel. Not 2 minutes at all. We got to give him some time. So we'll wait till because we got a break coming up in a couple minutes. So let's do that. So let me get back to this point, y'all. Now, they talk about why church is so critical and churches are so evaluated different than any other things in our community. Let me tell you why. Because that church has been the foundation of our beliefs. Because think about it. Hell, you got to have a hell of a belief when you was going through that, when they was going through what they was going through, getting beat, getting castrated, having a big ass party right in the middle of the street, and they go to churches and sell tickets for the hanging. Hey, we got a hanging at 1 o'clock today. And they come out there and have popcorn, and I mean like we were animals. But the only thing black folks had, the slaves, was religion. That's why we critical. That's why I get pissed off at it, because guess what? That was our fundamental strength, was the church. So when you see these guys out here saying the things they're saying, and not doing what they're supposed to do, then there's a problem. So when people want to talk all that garbage about, oh, well, the church, I mean, why is it when Biden ran for president, when Kamala was vice president, what they do, they hit a church stop. They went around to churches. When you were in Detroit, when y'all white mayor in an 80-90% black city runs for mayor re-election, where he's going to go? He's going to go to y'all black church. Because in his mind, the black church has that kind of influence in that community. But I know it ain't that powerful no more because the churches has let us down. The black churches, I'm not talking about every black church. But damn, when I'm running a mega church and I get all these big cards and I'm running around here and people are starving and they still got to get their tithes. And then you know what? I have a problem when I ain't got no damn money. You want me to tithe. I can't even feed my family, but you want me to put some money in your damn bucket. God gonna bless you. God ain't blessing you putting no damn money in that bucket. Trust me. You can put as much money in that bucket you want. You ain't getting blessed. Because if you're getting blessed for putting money in that damn box or a bag or however they take the money, so why is it then, if that's the case, if you're going to get all your rewards because you give $10 to the damn church or you write $100 to the church and they're going to say, okay, for you giving me that, God going to bless you. I can go out and do all this stuff in the street, be this bad person I am, but if I give $100 to the church, I'm going to get blessed. Come on, man. That's what makes me mad. When we take advantage of poor folks. When only our beliefs have been, gentlemen, and I know I'm talking, but the mega churches, and Taylor said the mega churches, pastors don't take money from the church. Their income comes from other means. A lot of those mega churches have gotten rich off taking money from the church. And guess why, Taylor? We'll have your take tomorrow, and you're on Facebook commenting. But let me make this clear. They may get money from other means, but you better believe those other means, JC, you tell me if I'm wrong, and Jeff, you tell me if I'm wrong, those other means leverage his reach. If he's reaching 30,000 people, why in the hell would you not invest in him? Because you're going to need him. Don't they do that in marketing all day, Jeff?
Yes.
And that's called reward marketing, isn't it, Jeff? I mean, you in business? If what they call it on, hey, Jeff and JC, what they call it on Facebook and Instagram, influencers.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Of course, people are going to go find the influencers. Now, influencers now are like the Kardashians and Paris Hilton. I don't even know who they are because I'm old and I actually read newspapers and things and don't go on Facebook and Twitter and stuff. But yeah, they want people who just by a little bit of a arch of the brow or a snap of the finger, people who can get a whole bunch of other people to do what they want. Yeah, those are influencers.
You think Joel Osteen ain't getting paid? I think Joel Osteen ain't getting paid.
Cliff O'Donnell.
You think Cliff O'Donnell ain't getting paid? Come on, man. Hey, look here. We're going to switch to tech because y'all got me in this mood. But I'm in a great mood. Coming up, y'all, check this out. Get ready, man. It's a great story. Y'all heard of that series that come out called Life? Jeff, JC, guess who we got coming on? We got my man, Isaac Wright Jr. Attorney Isaac Wright Jr., folks, who was put in prison that was framed as a drug kingpin, and they gave him life in prison. He started learning the law in prison and was able to defend himself and come out and expose all the criminal stuff that was happening. That's a real story. And now guess what? Not only if he's a lawyer, he's running for mayor of New York City. Wow. The big fella, the coach, The Hurricane. Y'all got me rolling on King's birthday, man. My man Isaac Wright Jr. is coming up. Oh, y'all got to stay locked and loaded for that one. Right back.
Attention. In July 2018, Bayer announced
Welcome back to Demetrius Johnson, the big fella, the coach, the Hurricane. Coming up, man, in seconds, we're going to have my man, attorney Isaac Wright Jr., man. I'm telling you, I'm excited about this conversation with him. Michael, let me know when we got him. And I am telling you, it's an unbelievable story. When I got this story, let me kind of just give a quick overview on the story. It happened. Michael Wright was framed. The folks wanted to pin a case on him and saying he was a kingpin. And he was out on the East Coast. They pinned this case on him. And Isaac Wright, Isaac Wright was a good man. He had a group, singing group. His wife was in the group. They was doing very good. They was performing. He had a record label. I mean, he was doing all the things that you ask of a young man to become successful. And he was doing it all legal. And they come and pin a bullcrap case on this guy. An investigation. They come, the police department there, pull this bullcrap on him and get him and talk about he was a drug kingpin. And the state charged him with the drug kingpin law, which can allow you to do up to a life in prison. He goes to court. They find him guilty, and then they sentence him to life in prison. He had to spend about 7 years in prison. But while he was in prison, what he did, he started going to the law library, and he started learning the law, and got to figuring out how to fight this case. And then what he was doing, he was representing other inmates that were in there unjustly and was getting them off. And now he had to come and fight for himself. And what was crazy, the prosecuting attorney, let me just tell you how foul this was to this guy. How foul was it? Hey, James, do we have him? Michael, do we have him yet?
He's on the line.
Okay, let's bring him in, let him talk, man. I am so excited, man, to have Isaac Wright Jr. on the air with us. Isaac, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
You have no idea how honored I am, man. When I read your story, man, I mean, I got speechless because it's powerful. It was powerful of what the man, the intestinal fortitude that you had and the strength to fight through this. You know what we're going to do, Isaac? Isaac Wright Jr., I'm going to say thank you for joining us here in Detroit, but I want to allow you to introduce yourself to our audience, and I want you to tell the story, if you don't mind.
Not a problem. I'm Isaac Wright Jr., and obviously me to be able to sit here and talk to you all, for you all to understand not just the significance of the story itself, but the environment, the backdrop, which was extremely important. And I think the people in Detroit is going to feel this just as the people in New York and in some of the inner cities in New Jersey and other major cities across the country. And that is this. You know, this incident happened to me. I got a life sentence in the 90s. And the reason why the 90s is so important is because for black people, black men especially, this was a time where we were being annihilated with impunity, and nobody cared. I mean, there wasn't no social media. There wasn't camera phones and, you know, all these things that people had available to them to be able to polarize and put a flashlight on some of the injustices that was going on. Literally during this time, no one cared. And black people in general, black men specifically, had absolutely zero fight against a system that was built on that type of annihilation of black and brown people. And so that is very, very significant to understand the time in which this happened. Now, you know, if you move a little bit forward, and I need to take you forward in order to kind of give you an indication on the reality of how I got out and the significance of that also. You know, I got out. I actually got out of prison because a law enforcement officer, I got him on the stand 7.5 years later into my life sentence. My appeals was over, and by that time I was so good. I was better than everybody around me. I could go into a courtroom and size a courtroom up in 0.3 seconds. I mean, this was something that I you know, when I look back on it, all those things that you said earlier about my successful career in entertainment, you know, my ex-wife at the time was a very, very popular singer with a group called the Cover Girls. You know, when you backdrop those things that you just said, and when I look back at what I went through, I realized that that's not even who I was. That I didn't even find myself until I had to go to prison for something I didn't do, and to fight for my life. That's when I literally understood what God had in store for me and the gifts that I had. And so, bringing that back to this period of time, 7.5 years later, one of the officers that had engaged in a lot of the corruption, along with the prosecutor, I got him on the witness stand, and this was my last stand. My appeals was gone. I still had 70 years left. I had got my life sentence overturned in another prisoner's case. I made new law in his case earlier on, and I got my life sentence overturned. But I still had 70 years that they affirmed on other charges. And so I was facing trial again on the Kingpin statute. I had 70 years I was serving. And now this law enforcement officer, who was one of the guys that was at the head of all this corruption, I have him on the stand. By this time, 7.5 years later, he is now he's the chief of the police academy. He's running the police academy. And so, you know, his rise was very, very quick. And that apex of his rise was significant in the sense that, you know, there were many hymns that he was going to be releasing out into the public as the chief of the police academy. So I got this guy on the stand, and I got this guy, this law enforcement officer, to confess. Under my cross-examination, I had gotten so good that I got a law enforcement officer to confess. Now, mind you, what's important to understand and this is a little different than what you see in the TV show, is that when I was doing all this, all I had was a high school diploma. I got my formal education. I pursued a law degree after I was released. So I made new law. I was getting all these people out and made new law, and was skillful enough to get this white police officer. He was a white officer, and I'm a black man, and he put himself in jail or the threat to go to jail because he pled guilty in order to escape prison. But he did that to his career. His career was done. He ruined his entire career and a significant part of his life by confessing in order for me to go home. And so you have to understand this was in the 90s when this happened. And that's extremely significant to know, because it gives you an idea of the kind of skill set and the high mountain that was there, the impossibility of climbing that mountain that I had been faced at the time. Now, using all of that, taking these things that you're hearing right now, and you set that up against the wall like a curtain, and then you have to consider this one last thing that is really mind-boggling. But this gives you an idea of where I was mentally with my position and my fight. When I came back to court 7.5 years later, before this hearing started, and before I got this cop on the stand, there were several other witnesses that I called. He was one of them. When I came back to court, they offered me a deal to go home in 2 years. They said, listen, we know that your life sentence is gone on the Kingpin. You got that reversed. Fine, good. But you got 70 years that you're still doing. And we can take you back to trial on the Kingpin, give you life plus 70 again. Here's what we're going to do. You drop your motion because you're never going to win this. The thing that you're alleging is crazy. It never happened. And no one's ever going to admit that they did what you're saying they did. So we're going to give you an olive branch. We're going to give you a chance to save your own life. You withdraw your motions. We'll replete your case out. You'll be home in 2 years. Right? I turned that down. I would rather have spent the rest of my life in prison fighting than to plead guilty and give them another day, another second of my life.
Wow.
And so all of these things, I said all of these things so that I can come to that point, so that we can understand, as black and brown people in general, and as human beings specifically, because, let's not forget, we are the majority in this injustice, but it happens to white people too. Obviously, it does not happen to them as often, but you have poor white people that they do the exact same thing to. It's probably 100 to 1, but it happens. So when I say this, there's no question that I am talking predominantly to black and brown people specifically, but in general, I am talking to all people that encounter and experience injustice at the hands of the criminal justice system.
We're speaking with Isaac Wright Jr., a gentleman who was falsely accused of being a drug kingpin in the New York area and was in prison and got found guilty and was sentenced to life in prison. And you did 7 years in prison. And what gave you the intestinal fortitude to start fighting this? I mean, you start representing other inmates, guys who was treated unfairly. What gave you that power to do that?
There were things that obviously a person, especially when it's divine, this was a divine journey for me. And my life, there were things that has happened in my life. The foundation of my life was obviously how I was raised. I was raised in a military family. My father was in the military for 30-something years. He fought in both Vietnam and Korea, and he was a gun-ho, staunch military man, disciplined, in the fight for what's right. And if you have to fall on the sword for the right thing, that's what you do. Honor above everything, and respect, right behind that. And so, just my general upbringing was a little bit different. in the sense that I was raised in a military family with an incredible father and a very, very nourishing mother. And so, as I grew up, I also encountered other things that happened to me in life that prepared me for this fight.
But I hear that. Yeah, I hear that. But think about this. You know how black men were being treated in the 90s with drugs. I mean, it infiltrated our communities. And, I mean, they was trying to pin cases on any and everybody they can.
They were taking the whole family to jail. They go and take the grandmother, the daughter, the mother, everybody. He was wiping us out.
Right. So how, when they came to you and said to you, Isaac Wright Jr., you're going to be facing life. You take this, you'll be out in 2 years. What gave you the strength to fight through it? I hear the military background, but any person, most people would have said, okay, I'll do that. What made you not do it?
The best way that I can, in its most simplest terms, the best, and this is, and when I say this, I know a lot of people will actually understand what I'm saying, because I think that's the catalyst for people making decisions when they're in trouble. I had no fear. The simplest way that I can say it is that what was happening to me, and I want to make sure that we all understand each other. My whole world had crumbled around me. I'd lost everything. I lost my family, and now, I had lost my life. And there were stages of that. There was the threat of losing family and life. There was then the loss of family and the loss of your life. You were still breathing, but literally with a life sentence, you actually lost your life. And then, then there was this period, and I shouldn't say period, there was this segment where after you've lost everything, there's nothing else at the end of that tunnel. And so that is the reality. And so, there's two things that I did. Number one, I deal with fear differently than most people. I deal with that differently. That's one thing. The other thing is that I created my own reality. I created my own narrative. This was a situation where from the very first moment, and I shouldn't even say from the very first moment, before I was even arrested, the government had already began to prepare their narrative, what they wanted the public to see when they looked at me.
Wow.
And I was able to identify these things. There were things that I was able to see that other people wasn't able to see. And so I began to create my own narrative. I knew I was innocent. And so at the end of the day, I knew, and another thing is I knew I was going to prison for the rest of my life. This wasn't a situation, I represented myself at trial. So just so we can all be on the same page. The reason why I dealt with fear differently is because I had answers. There were impossible answers, but there were answers. And all I had to do at that point was to make those answers a reality. Now, I don't want to simplify this, and I don't want to make it seem, like it's nothing, because I do have a deep insight on the challenge that I faced and the impossibility of what I did. What I'm trying to say is that, and I could have failed. So don't get me wrong. This is something that I could have failed. I could still be in prison today.
Right.
But the difference is that reality that I created, that narrative that I created based on my innocence, I turned that into reality. And let me just say this. This is something that's very, very important. So and when I say this, this is a bright light coming on. There is, you have a person, you can walk down the street and you may see a person that's talking to themselves, that is speaking to someone that's not there. And you can have another version of that where you hear a person, speaking granular things. I mean, he's going to be the president of the United States. One day he's going to rule the world. These are things where a person listens to it, and the average person listens to it, and they say, this guy's crazy, and more than likely they're probably correct. But here's the thing about delusion. delusion is only delusion if you can't make it a reality.
Hmm. Wow.
That's a very, very significant thing when you look at what I did. You know, I had a plan on how I was going to get myself out of prison. When I represented myself at trial, I knew that I was going to get convicted, and I knew I was going to get a life sentence. And I knew if I didn't play this plan out that I had, I was going to spend the rest of my life in prison. My advantage was two things. I knew I was innocent. I knew all the things that they were doing wrong. And all I had to do from that point is build my case.
Wow.
So I didn't represent myself at trial to win. I did everything that I could to win.
Right.
And I almost did. But I represented myself through this entire process because it became personal. And when things become personal, people make mistakes.
Wow.
I accumulated those mistakes along the years, and I formulated a strategy. And thank God I had a certain gift that allowed me to make my delusion a reality. And if I didn't, people would be thinking today that I was crazy. But because I did make it a reality, I'm brilliant.
We're speaking with the attorney, Isaac Wright Jr., who was arrested and charged with a kingpin charge in the New York area. And he fought the case himself. And now, not only that you fought the case, and a couple things, and I really appreciate you coming on, and I just want to thank you for this, man, because I know your busy schedule, but I truly appreciate it. I'm going to ask you a question, because then I'm going to get into the politics with you. You're running for mayor, and I'm really pumped up about that. But let's do this. If you can hold for a minute, we're going to take a quick break, a couple minutes, come back, because I got to ask you about a couple things. And then I want to talk about how do we get people, knowing that a man like you, the integrity, the intentional fortitude, the heart, the grind, the grit, we got to get you in there as a mayor. And you can get mayor people from all over the country to support you, man. We got to take a guy like you who stood on principle and stood on your beliefs and fought for it and got vindication at the end of it. Man, I'm a fan. Hey, Isaac Wright Jr., I'm a fan, my man. I am a fan. If you can just hold on for a second, we're going to take a quick commercial break because our fans are loving you, man, and we're going to get them to give some donations to your campaign. The big fella, we're speaking with the attorney, Isaac Wright Jr. Oh, my goodness. Stay locked and loaded. Right back.
But the problem is all that excess oil and fat can cause you to become overweight. Well, now there's the Cook Light Aero Fryer, an amazing kitchen miracle that uses air to fry instead of oil, so you can have the same delicious flavor and crispiness of deep frying using little or no oil. Get that deep fried taste and crispiness with up to 70% fewer calories. Enjoy crispy, delicious fries with little or no oil, guilt-free onion rings, cheesy and delicious mozzarella sticks. Call now and bring the Cook Light Aero Fryer into your home, including the Cook Light Aero Fryer recipe book, the unique patented dual tray, air frying mesh basket and tongs, and stainless steel extender ring. You'll get it all for 5 easy payments of $29.95. Be one of the first 500 callers and get this 13-piece knife set, a $175 value, yours free. Try Cook Light Aero Fryer for 30 days.
Man, this song is appropriate tonight, baby. I got the man on the airway in Detroit, and I am so pumped up to have him on here. My man, Isaac Wright Jr., man. Attorney Isaac Wright Jr. Man, I'm just honored, man, to have this conversation. I mean, I get chills when I talk to you, man, because I'm telling you, I'm just pumped up about you. And before we get into your political run for mayor of New York, I want to go back to the prosecuting attorney. Now, the prosecuting attorney, Bissell, I believe that's what his name was, Bissell, who was prosecuting you. Now, he came with this bull crap against you. He continued to hold it. But what happened was he was trying to extort someone else from property. And him not being able to get the property, the guy goes to the FBI and says, I got this prosecuting attorney guy who's trying to embezzle and hold me hostage on my property. And that seemed like that's when everything changed. Talk about that.
Well, that happened in '93. I think it was James Giuffre was the guy's name. Mm-hmm. That happened in 90. That happened 2 years after I was arrested and filed suit. So let me give you some background about why that happened with his particular suit in terms of Bissell beginning to get into some trouble. I was actually arrested in 1989, and a few months after that, when I decided that I was going to represent myself, I actually started filing suit. I filed suit against Bissell then, and back then it's still similar today, but I had to file before I could actually file a lawsuit. I had to file what they call a notice of claim. And so that notice of claim evolved into an official lawsuit in 1991, the same year I was convicted and sent to prison. And so what that meant was I was fighting a civil case and a criminal case at the same time. As my civil case and the things that I was alleging began to get out in the papers and people started hearing about it, they began to get brave. And Giuffre was one of those guys. The difference between me and Giuffre is that Giuffre was white. And so I was the voice among a chorus that no one was listening to. But when Giuffre started screaming about what they were doing to him, people started listening. And so he, to be honest with you, and this is the way things work for us as black and brown people. I put my lawsuit in.
Just to remind you, DJ, he's got to be gone by 8:30.
And before I got out of prison, he had already went through his lawsuit and settled it and everything, and I'm still in prison. I'm still fighting.
Wow.
And mine was in before his. And so nothing I said meant anything until the police actually confessed.
Wow. I know we got a timeline with you, man. I could talk to you all day. And then I just want to move to this point. You had an opportunity to meet 50 Cent, and he heard about your story. I fell in love with your story, and now they got a sitcom on, called For Life that 50 Cent produced and
series on ABC.
ABC. Oh my God! And I watched it today, man. I mean, it just what you've endured and what you've gone through is so amazing, and I just, Attorney Isaac, man, I'm speechless, man, because I feel a love for you, man, and I feel what you've gone through. But it took a guy with a lot of guts and heart to go through it and what's great, folks. Let me say this, man, Isaac, you just got to give me some time, on this one. Let me, because I'm preaching now. I got to preach your story. Let me tell you how strong this man is, folks. That's why when we get the information out, you guys going to have to put money into his campaign. We got to make sure we get him in that mayor's race in New York. We got a man who's gone through so much, knows how the system has been unfair to black folks. They know it. He lived it. He had a life sentence, folks. A life sentence. And you know what's amazing to me, man? When not only when you got out of prison, when you passed the bar exam, I want you folks to listen to this. When Attorney Isaac Wright Jr. passed the bar exam, they did a background check and did not let him become a lawyer for 7 years. 9 years?
On character.
On character. They did a character background on him and did not let him become a lawyer for 9 years. 2018, he becomes an official lawyer.
2017.
2017. My God. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm going to let you take it over. Go ahead. Woo.
Yeah, let me expound on that by you know, it's trying to give a complete picture of that journey, so that the awe of what they really did, you know, can sink in. So just look at it like this, right? I spent 7.5 years in prison fighting a life sentence. I win my freedom. I get exonerated. I have no criminal record at all. My record is wiped clean. I then spend the next 7 years pursuing a law degree. In order to be eligible for law school, you have to have a bachelor's. So I did 4 years for my undergraduate. I did 3 years law school. I graduated from law school on time and passed the bar the following year. Okay? So what they did was, you know, because I had a background, even though my record's clean, because this actually happened to me, you go before character and fitness. Something like this usually takes maybe a month. At the most 6 months. They investigated me. Now, this was an investigation, and this is what they called it. It wasn't no downtime, no nothing. They investigated me, so-called investigated me, for 9 years.
Wow.
Before they gave me the license. And it took the Supreme Court, the highest court in the state of New Jersey, to grant me permission to practice law. And now I'm probably one of the most sought-after attorneys in the country.
Wow, man. I mean, we're speaking with Attorney Isaac Wright Jr., folks. I mean, this gentleman is a true example of fighting through and staying to the course. I mean, and it's a sitcom out called For Life that 50 Cent is part of. I mean, let's, okay. I got to go here, man. And you got me fired up, man. I'm so excited. I'm excited about you, man. Talk about now you want to go for mayor. Tell our listening audience why it's important for Isaac Wright Jr., Attorney Isaac Wright Jr. to be the mayor of the city of New York.
Well, one of the main reasons, there was two things that happened that actually was a catalyst in me deciding to run for mayor. You know, it was something that was mentioned to me a number of times in a couple of different offices, political offices was mentioned to me, but I'm not a politician, and I had no desire to get into politics. I like to get mud on my boots and, as I say, metaphorically speaking, mud on my boots and blood on my knife. You know, I'm always at the front lines, fighting against injustice, fighting for the people that cannot fight for themselves. But there's something that happened with New York during the pandemic that really, for the very first time, you know, I felt different about the fear that I usually I'm able to manage properly. I went into Times Square maybe a month after the pandemic hit, and it was completely empty. And all my life, I've never seen Times Square like that. There was a Spanish flu way back in 1918, killed hundreds of thousands of people, and historically I checked into it, New York was busted. If you go up to the present time, you had the World Trade Center tragedy. Thousands of people lost their lives, but when you drove up to Midtown, Times Square, New York was bustling. New York was still moving. Right now, not only is Times Square empty, but you have entire commercial high-rises where all the businesses have moved out. The floors are empty. A lot of floors are empty in these high-rises. You have thousands of small businesses that have closed. You have hundreds of thousands of people that have lost their jobs. And so this was something different for New York. And as the financial capital of the world, the beacon city of the entire world, if New York falls, we're going to have some serious problems. And this is the reason why I'm using the word fall, and this is, part of the catalyst of me making that decision. What most people don't know is, even though New York is one of the biggest cities in the country, what's different about New York is that New York can't borrow money. Most major cities are able to create bonds and sell those bonds to Wall Street or other corporations and individuals to raise money, and over a 20-year period, they pay that money back. But when New York almost went bankrupt in the 70s, Albany, New York's capital, changed the law and prevented New York from making money. So New York only has 3 things that it can do to get money: taxes, and it can't raise taxes during this period of time, and it may not be able to raise taxes for many years to come because of the economic disaster that New York is facing right now. Begging the federal government or begging the state government. That is the only way New York gets money. And when a city is complex and huge as New York, with the inability to raise money, and to have a mayor that has to beg to get that money and may not be able to get it, New York is in line to have a catastrophic economic event. And so when I looked at that, and I thought about it, I woke up one morning and it just dawned on me that I thought that God had prepared me to deal with the tragedy that I went through all those years in prison, and then the climb to become an attorney. But when I look back at that, I think this was my calling. I think that the road that I've been on all these years was preparing me for the complex job in this day and time of being New York City's mayor and bringing New York back to its former glory. It's going to take a special person to do that, one that's going to be able to think outside the box and be able to make the impossible possible. And I'm that man.
We're speaking with Isaac Wright Jr. He is the attorney, Isaac Wright Jr. He's a gentleman that was falsely accused of being a drug kingpin and did 7 years, fought his own case, handled his own case, and won the case. And now he's a free man, and now he's an attorney. And he's running for mayor. That's what's more amazing to me, Attorney Isaac Wright Jr. That's what's amazing to me, that what you went through, the pain, the suffering in your family, and talk about, and that's why we got to get him in that office, folks. Because I'm going to tell you, talk about how did that destroy your family, man, because it had to be tough on your family. It had to have been.
Absolutely. I was the families always have, and most families are like this. They always have that one, sometimes it's multiple people, but it's usually 1 or 2 people that are at the heart of the family. Mm-hmm. They're the bedrock, and that passes from generation to generation. It's like a baton that passes. Sometimes it's literally passed, and sometimes it's just by chance. It passes from one person to the other, or by destiny. And so I was one of those people in the family that was the bedrock. And so, when this happened to me, the entire family imploded. And it wasn't, it was a devastating event. It was a rippling event. And, the strength of my mom and my dad, they kept things together, but it was a huge hole in the family. I went in prison. I had a wife and I had a daughter. I came home. All I had was my daughter. I had no longer had a family of my own, and the only thing that was left for me was to try to be the best father that I could possibly can to her, and to get her in a place where she's going to be all right in life. And I did that. But to this very day, there's ripple effects. There's collateral damage that has never healed to this day. And I don't think it ever will. But there was one thing that really, and this was the only time that I felt devastation. And I'm saying this, it may seem funny, me saying that with the devastating things that I was going through and that occurred to me, but there was only one time that I really felt devastated, and it was after I'd come home, and I was at my mom and dad's house, mm-hmm. and they had their own copies of the files of my case that they had put in the storage unit, and I happened to go in there looking for some documents, and I saw some transcripts of my trial, that the copies of it that my father had, and I saw his handwriting. I recognized his handwriting, and this giant of a man. I mean, this was a man that was a giant to me. Over and over again, in different parts of my trial transcripts, he was writing the words, "Why?
Wow.
Why did you do this?" You know, and I never saw that kind of vulnerability in my dad.
Wow.
And that really, that was devastating to me. And so, you know, that's just to give you, you know, I wasn't experiencing their pain because I wasn't around, but that gave me a light, a peek inside the window of their suffering. And this is one of the things that, you know, we really have to take heed on and put flashlight on, because, you know, we spend a lot of attention and we pay a lot of attention to the people who are in prison, but the collateral damage is even more devastating. The families that are destroyed behind that. You know, one person goes to prison, 10 people suffer. And so, you know, if you got 2 million people in prison, you know, you got 20 million people suffering, minimum.
Wow.
And we got to pay very, very close attention to that, because that also has a negative effect, you know, on society. And with all different types of, it plays itself out with all different types of antisocial behaviors, and economic devastation. It costs the economy tons and tons of money. It's negative all around, universally negative all around. There's nothing good about it at all.
We're speaking with attorney Isaac Wright Jr. He's a gentleman that was falsely accused of being a drug pen and was sentenced to life in prison. Did 7 years, came out. I mean, he started representing other inmates while he was in, representing himself, go to court, win the case, and now he's an attorney himself. You talking about perseverance, folks. This guy right here, not only did he have to wait 9 years after he passed the bar exam for them to do some bullcrap investigation on him, talking about character investigation, and take 9 years for him to become a lawyer when they know that he did nothing wrong. And what's crazy, the Bissell, the prosecuting attorney, folks, after they found out he was corrupted, he went to court. They put a brace on him, one of those ankle bracelets, that he had to do time, stay at home until his sentencing. The day before his sentencing, he breaks the monitor off and leaves town, runs away, goes to Nevada. They track him to Nevada by his cell phone. Once they get him in Nevada, they come to get him in the hotel. He blows his brains out. He kills himself. After he destroyed lives, families, attorney Isaac Wright Jr. was a man that he tried to destroy his life permanently. He destroyed part of this man's life. Yeah. Now, attorney Isaac Wright is running for mayor of New York, and we need to support him. Go ahead, attorney. I'm sorry.
Yes, I was saying that just to give you, you know, and this again goes towards the mountain that I was climbing, and just to give you, you know, the triangle of conspiracy. My trial judge also went to prison.
Wow.
Everybody around me was corrupt. The police officer investigating me, the prosecutor prosecuting me, and the judge trying my case. I was in the midst. I was encircled, ensnared, in an environment of corruption. There was nowhere that I could have turned. Would there have been a helping heart?
Wow.
I was totally encased in corruption.
Folks, we speak with attorney Isaac Wright Jr. Oh, my God. And 50 Cent, you know, the entertainer, he found this story. He heard this story, and now there's a sitcom out called For Life. You got to watch it. I am telling you, it is unbelievable. But let me say this, folks. He is running for mayor of New York. He's going to give us information. You're going to get a donation from me. I don't never donate to nobody campaign. You are getting one from me, big man. And I'm calling my boys Jeff, Coach, my man Nick, my little son Nick, He just texted me and said, "Hey, I'm going to be sending whatever you match. DJ, you send, I'm matching it," and that's what I want to hear. And that's what it's all about, giving you an opportunity. Because, and folks, let me tell you what. I was watching some on Instagram. I was doing my homework on you, and there was a big ruckus that broke out in New York at the subway.
Yeah.
You got in the middle of it, right in the middle, and diffused this whole situation. You de-escalated the violence that was going on between the police and the protesters. Man, I'm telling you, man. Oh my God, Attorney Isaac Wright Jr., I am a fan of yours, my man. I'm truly a fan.
Thank you.
And
I appreciate that so much.
And you tell us, how can people contribute? And let's write this down, folks. Everybody write it down. Write it down. How can we contribute? How do folks contribute to your campaign? What do we need to do?
Well, there's a couple of things that I'd like for everyone to do, and don't fear about what you're able to give. Every single dollar counts. And what the first thing I'd like people to understand, because most people don't explain this to them, is donations are extremely important to the viability of a campaign. Not only for you to be able to actually campaign properly and effectively, but the viability of the campaign is embedded in donations. It gives the general public and the media an idea of who's following you, of who believes in you, and of the strength of your campaign. And so, every dollar counts, every donation counts, but it counts for more than just money. And so for those of you all who can donate, even if it's $5, even if it's $1, if you can give more, we appreciate it. We'd like for you to first do this. We have a web page, and we have a donate button on that campaign web page, and that website is Wright. It's www.Wright, which is my last name, WRIGHT, for NYC, which is New York City, 2021.com. Wright for NYC 2021.com. All right, you go to our, and on our campaign website, there's a lot more information there. I mean, you'll get to know a lot about me. There's videos there related to the TV show, related to certain portions of my life. There's raw footage, when I was arrested and when I was representing myself in court. So there's a host of information on that website. We'd also like for you all to follow us now. I mean, you got your Instagram, you got your Twitter. Follow us, and our campaign social media page is Wright for NYC. On that, there's no twin. Also find me on social media, Isaac Wright Jr. Need to know my name, Isaac Wright Jr., and it'll come up. But really, 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 donations are important. You got career politicians who shake hands and tell lies, and unfortunately, being embedded in a system that conspires to keep people out, they get the most money. At the end of the day, the people has the power. So as long as I have you guys, I will be the next mayor of New York City. I will bring New York City back to its former glory. And at that point, the writing will be on the wall. Everybody will see what happens to a city when the right candidate has been chosen to be its mayor. But it begins with you all. So please come to the site and donate. Again, www.wrightfornyc2021.com.
I'm telling you, Attorney Isaac Wright Jr., it has been truly an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to have you on. I want to thank Eric Mormon, your campaign manager, for setting this up, man. And you are just a phenomenal man. You are truly a phenomenal man. And folks, we got to support him. www.wrightfornyc2021.com. We got to support Mr. Isaac Wright Jr. Man, it is an honor, a pleasure to have you on, and I'm so thankful, man. It's a blessing. Just, hey, man, you inspire me, man. You really inspire me because You showed, and you've shown a listening audience throughout the country that a strong man, a strong black man, can get through a very difficult situation in his life, and you are able to do that. And I am so honored to have you on. I mean, it's a blessing, and I'm thankful. And I really mean that. There's no patronizing going. I mean that.
It's a pleasure, I know, and I appreciate it, and it's a pleasure to be on. And anytime you need me back and you'd have me, I'll be there.
Man, I have you on every single day. You're a motivational speaker to me, man. I mean, hey, Attorney Isaac Wright Jr., finish talking to you. I feel like I can play football again. I know I can't. And, you know, I just put on my Facebook page, folks, to go and donate to Anthony Wright's campaign, Attorney Wright's campaign. You go and do it, man. We got to get him in there, give him an opportunity. This man knows the system. The system screwed him. He had the intentional fortitude, and the blessing of God to give him the strength to get through it. And guess what, folks? He wants to give back. And we need to get him in there so he can give back. Attorney Isaac Wright Jr., thank you so much, and it's a pleasure having you on tonight. It's truly a blessing. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, and thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. That's Attorney Isaac Wright Jr., man. Oh, my goodness. Coach. Oh, my goodness, Coach. Go ahead, Coach. You're muted. I can't hear you, Coach. Yeah.
That's a fascinating story, man. There should be a movie behind that thing.
Well,
man.
it is. I mean, it's sitcom on. It's on.
I know it's a series, a sitcom, but yeah, that's a whole movie, though. That's
oh my God.
That's fascinating. That is, yeah. And to think, though, that at the end of it, think about it this way: even after all that, he still has to fight to get his law license.
Isn't that something?
Overcoming all that.
9 years. The prosecuting attorney kills himself. The judge go to jail. And can you believe? Oh my God! It is It's amazing that this guy Jeff. What's your thought, man? I'm sorry, Jeff and JC, that I just dominated.
You were enthused and excited. I mean, the guy's got way more grit and determination than probably 99.99% of the people on the planet who would have given up in despair. Good for him that he kept going. He's got a difficult race running for mayor. It's a crowded race, and I think 3 of the candidates have a big load of money. But as he said, when you were talking about his race for mayor, he needs everybody's help. He's right. Whether we like it or not, how much money you're able to raise will determine whether people, in particular the press and other donors, think you're credible or not. So he needs our help.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, folks, we need to buckle down, man. I'm sending them some, Jeff. I'm telling you, I'm going to send some to www.right for NYC2021.com. Hey, and my little, he's like my son, Nick. He done text me saying, hey, man, I'm matching whatever you send. So, Nick, I'll tell you what I'll be sending. And it's great, folks. I mean, this is a hell of a story. And then I watched on Amazon Prime on TV today. I watched For Life, and just you can see how the story took place, man. And I'm telling you, folks, I know it's a movie, but it gives you kind of an idea of what this man went through. How can I mean, and for 50 Cent to take this life and say I want to do a story on it, although it's profitable for him, it tells the story. It gives you an idea of corruption when we talk about reform. Justice, criminal reform. We talk about prosecuting. I mean, think about this. He said the prosecuting attorney killed himself. The judge and another officer, they all went to jail. Think about that. That's a corrupted ass system. And we talk about this system all the time, JC.
All the time, man. It is, well, many people don't have the fortitude that he had. DJ.
Oh, my God.
I mean, the fortitude, the endurance, the mental toughness. I mean, everything, man. That's a lot. That is a lot, man. A lot of people would have gave up on even less than ideal circumstances.
Hey, Jeff, and honestly, I don't know if I would have had the courage or the will to fight through it, even when they came to me and said, hey, I'll give you 2 years. Hell, I'm taking it. He said, no, I ain't going to take it.
I'd have taken the 2 years. It would have broken the spirits of most people.
Right. Think about it. Hey, man, you spend 2 more years and then you out for good. And he said, no, I ain't doing that. No, you can give me, you can't. I'm not going to let you destroy the rest of my life. Jeff, man, how do you do that, Jeff?
I don't really know, but based on how he presented himself and words he used and the tone of his voice, I can only tell you that he has to have some kind of a disposition where he's optimistic, right? Somehow he thinks through this whole thing, and oftentimes with no evidence to back it up, somehow he thinks through this whole thing he can get it reversed. Because what happens with most people is they give up hope. And if you give up hope, then what the hell, why bother? It's kind of the same thing that he's bringing to the mayor's race. It's kind of a long shot deal, but, the guy seems to have some natural instinct that things can turn out okay if he just doesn't give up. And most of us are probably just the opposite. Most of us probably, wake up in the day and our day's going pretty good, and we're just waiting for something bad to happen.
I agree, because all the stuff he was going through, they offered me a deal. I may have taken that deal if I was him. So, JC, what you got? We about to get ready to wind this thing down.
Hey, man, great show. I mean, that couldn't have been a better guest on Martin Luther King's birthday, man.
No doubt
again,
about
happy birthday to Martin Luther King and his entire family, and what he's meant to the black and brown community, man, will never be replaced. Never be replaced.
Jeff, your closing for me?
Well, I mean, I think that I say this all the time, and I do think Martin Luther King's life was more complicated, and, as time has gone by, people have oversimplified it. But one of the things he talked about was, black people and white people coming together for justice. And I will tell you that's the only way it's going to get better in this country.
Well, let me say this. It is truly Dr. Martin Luther King Day. Attorney Isaac Wright Jr., really was an example of the fight, the grit, the commitment that Dr. Martin Luther King made to black folks. The fight for your right, fight with what you think is right. And Attorney Isaac Wright did. I mean, he was locked up for 7 years of something he had nothing to do with. Nothing to do with. But he stayed in there and he fought for it. He goes and get his law license. He gets out. They found out he's innocent of all charges. Had nothing to do with it. Then it took another 9 years for him to get his law license because they wanted to do a background check on something they knew was frivolous. Oh, my God. I just pray to God that I can have that kind of intestinal fortitude and that strength, because that wasn't easy. And, folks, if you want to watch some things on him, Google him. Or go on ABC On Demand, the series For Life. Prime time. It airs on ABC Wednesday at 9 p.m. Central. Isaac Wright Jr., Attorney Isaac Wright Jr., I salute you, man. I salute you. And thanks for being what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wanted us to be: strong, productive, hardworking, fighting for your right black men. Because you solidify everything on Dr. Martin Luther King Day. You are my Dr. Martin Luther King celebration today. Thank you so much, Attorney Isaac Wright. And let me thank my man, Michael, my board man. Thank you, Michael. Without you, we don't have a show, man. You've always had it. And without our callers in Detroit, man, I appreciate you guys. We look forward to being on every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. It's an honor, and I'm thankful. And I'm glad to have my cohorts, JC and Jeff. And tomorrow we have JC and we have the reporter. So thank you, guys. I look forward to talking to you again tomorrow. Same time, same station. Lock it in, the big fella. We'll see you in Detroit tomorrow. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for spending your precious time to listen, to watch, to be a part of our show. We do not take this for granted. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Coach. Thank you. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Same time, same station. Stay locked and loaded. Stay blessed. I'm out.
Are you looking for a great deal on advertising? Here at 910 AM Superstation, we're going to make you an offer that you can't refuse with our Godfather.
Michael?